Alright, I wanted to check back in and do another video and do a rig rundown on my Crescent Shoalie. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that I really enjoy the Crescent Shoalie. I've had it since its release last year, and I've ran it for over a year, and by far it's one of my favorite paddling kayaks. So I don't want to do like a full walkthrough video of this kayak. There are plenty of those out there. Crescent has a great video on that. A lot of people have done full rundowns. I will walk through some of the features on the kayak and talk through it, but I really want to focus on how I set it up. I just got back from a creek trip, a river trip, and float just a couple weeks ago. So I thought it'd be a good time to kind of look at how I had this set up and run through that and do a rig rundown. All right, so one of the first things I want to talk about on this kayak, one of my personal favorite features, is the front handle. If you've watched any video from Crescent or anybody talking about this kayak, you've seen the handle. And I just love that this has the integrated strap. So if I'm getting out and I'm wading in creeks, if I'm dragging across some rocks, something like that, I have this integrated strap. That is one of my favorite things. When I'm out in this boat, I like to just lay this across the front hatch and just leave it right there so that if you are, if you need a stand assist strap, you can use it for that. Or you can even, just have it right there just for quick access when you get back out. So I'll show you in a little bit that the rods still lay really, really well right here, and it stays out of your way. So everything has a really good place for your rods, for this feature, and everything like that. All right, so moving towards the center of the kayak, one thing I like to mention here that kind of gets overshadowed, in my opinion, are these rod troughs. So these rod stagers, as I would call them. All right, so another favorite feature of mine that really gets understated, doesn't get talked about a whole lot, are these rod stagers. So you'll see that you've got 4 rod stagers here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you even have this center section here that can be used as a rod stager. What I really like about this is that when you lay your rods in these stagers here, they line up perfectly with the hatch. So what essentially happens is when you use the rod butt stagers near the seat, your rods will lay near perfectly flat and keep out of the way of everything. So it's all in a real nice compact space. If you watch my last video on my other kayak walkthrough, you know that I like things to be kind of tucked away and have a place. And that's one reason why I really like this feature. So having those rod stagers, for me, keeps my rods organized in front of me, easy to access, and keeps them out of the way. All right, so I want to move more into the center of the kayak, and a few things we can talk about here. Again, I'm not going to go through all the features of the kayak, but some of my favorite things here, of course, are the catch recess holder. So this catch recess keeps your catch board in front of you, accessible, yet still out of the way. I've traveled with my catch board in here before, no issues, and it really is nice to have when you're out fishing a tournament or trying to measure a fish. You can put that 26-inch catch board right in here, and it's just never in your way and almost lays flat with the deck. So if you stand up, you're not really tripping over it. Not to mention, if you are standing up, you have plenty of space here for your feet to stand and not get in the way. Coming back towards the seat a little more, I mentioned just a second ago how the rods will lay in front of you and lay flat. You can see here are the rod stagers. So you have these lower rod stagers in the deck. If you are in the low position in the seat, you still have rod stagers here, but if you're in the high position in the seat, you also have rod butt stagers in here as well. Now I will also lay rod butts here, kind of under the seat, or even sometimes put them in the frame of the seat, just depending on what's easiest at the time. The chair is also really nice as well. I actually did add this kayak cushion, although it really doesn't need it. I just want a little bit of extra height. This does have the padded seat, so it comes directly from Crescent with a padded seat. It's actually really comfortable. I just wanted to add a little extra cushion there for the long days. All right, so moving to the rear of the kayak and getting into the tank well. This tank well is actually a lot bigger than people give it credit for. I'll show you here in a little bit when I put my gear in here, and you can see what it looks like, but I run a cooler in the back as my tackle box holder. You can also run a crate. You can run the Black Pack Pro. You can run the larger Backpack Pro here. I actually measured it this weekend. You will notice that I took the straps out of the back. I'm not a fan of bungee or anything. I really like the straps that they include with the kayak. As a matter of fact, I keep them in the seat back bag, which is made by Yak Gadget. in case I need them. But when I show you my gear and how I set that up in here, you'll see how I use other straps to go directly to the kayak itself and secure that in. Mentioning the Yak Gadget bag here, this is kind of my accessory pouch. Keep sunscreen. Sometimes I'll throw a bottle of water in there. I have my first aid kit and other emergency items that you might need for a day on the water. So I really like having this pack with me at all times. You'll also notice too that I have a GoPro mount here. So if you're watching my videos when I'm in the Shoalie, this is where I mount my GoPro from. I've got the Yak Attack boomstick, so that'll sit back here on this rail. So now I'd like to move on and actually gear this thing up, show you how I'm running it, how I used it last weekend on my river trip, and go from there. All right, so here we have a typical setup for me if I'm going out fishing on this kayak. I still keep it really simple. I will carry more than 3 rods with me. Pretty regularly, I'll carry 4, sometimes 5. But this is what a typical day out looks like. So keep my Bending Branches Angler Ace paddle with me at all times. I've had this paddle for 3 or 4 years now. It's beat up and it's still just as strong and as good as day one. Very used, very abused, and still in perfect shape. Now, looking at the rod layout here, you can see that the rods are lined up perfectly up to the front. Those tips are hanging just right there at the edge. So if you have a lure hanging off the end, it's just right off the edge of the kayak. It's not getting in the way. It's not snagging on things. I really love that. So like I mentioned earlier, I got my drag strap. I just leave it laying right there in that front cubby. So if I hop out of the kayak, I can grab that, go to the front. The rods are out of my way, and I can still drag around and wade upstream. So moving down this way through the kayak, I've got my catch board here in the recess that stays right there. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, hey, what about when you're measuring a fish? You have your rods right over that catch board. All I do, I just move these rods right up, keep them in those rod channels there. And now my catch board is free of all the rods. So I can still paddle, I can still keep the rods pushed up and away from the catch board if I'm catching fish, and I have access to that catch board real nice, real easy. Of course, I've got my NRS life jacket here, and one thing I didn't mention is I keep my pliers attached to the side of the seat. So attached to the seat, got my pliers for easy access. Okay, so let's talk about tackle storage. In the back of the kayak, I keep this 19-quart Engel cooler, and I keep my plastics here behind the seat in a KVD Plano bag. So I have all my plastics there. I can move this between my kayaks if I need to. I can throw it under the seat, but I usually like leaving it right there. So in my Engel cooler, I have that actually attached with some straps I bought off Amazon. So all I have to do, run that strap right through that little handle here on the Engel cooler. I run that underneath the molded in area on the Shoalie. That's there for the other straps that come with the kayak. I didn't want to cut those down, so I just bought my own. Put that in there, and now that's going to be secured. If it flips or anything, that's not going anywhere. Now I can just reach behind me, and I keep my tackle boxes right here behind me. This also can serve as dry storage, so I can throw my wallet in there, or my keys or my phone in there if it starts to rain, anything like that. If I'm not running a cooler, which I sometimes won't, if I'm not running tackle storage, sometimes I'll actually take these out, or take one out and put them beside the seat or underneath the seat, because you can actually run 4 or more tackle boxes underneath the seat. There's so much room under the seat. And you also have dedicated places for Plano boxes that you can secure with the bungees. So that's the back of the kayak, and that's generally speaking how I like to run this kayak if I'm out paddling, if I'm out on a river trip, or even if I'm flat water paddling. All right, so final thoughts on the Crescent Shoalie. This is by far one of my favorite paddling kayaks I've ever owned. It's personally one of my favorite design kayaks. I'm still, even though I have a pedal drive kayak, I'm still a big paddler. I still like to go float creeks, float rivers, and it's just my favorite way to kayak fish. I like to keep it simple, and I like things, again, to be organized and have a place for everything, which this kayak does. I can paddle this kayak 4 miles an hour consistently. I've gotten up faster than that, of course, on flat water on a good day, just using my fish finder to measure my speed. This kayak paddles extremely well. It paddles extremely fast. I had a Crescent light tackle previous to this, and that kayak was probably faster. For sure it was faster, but this kayak is more maneuverable and to me has more room. It's got a wider cockpit area. It's got a little more, or a lot more features really built into it, which is what really sets this kayak apart from other things in the market, in my opinion. I've paddled Jacksons before. I had a Jackson Liska for a long time, which was one of my favorite in the Jackson line. I had a couple Jackson Coosa HDs, which I paddled for a very long time. And I've also been in the Cudas and the Coosas and even the new Coosa X as well. The Crescent Shoalie is by far my favorite kayak and is usually my go-to if I'm going out fishing for a day, unless I'm hitting the big lake, which is when I'll grab my native. It paddles well, it maneuvers well, it's not that heavy. I think it comes in at around 77 pounds without any gear on it, so it's really easy to manage on and off the water, which is also important. I might actually do a video comparing this to a Coosa HD. I know that there are people out there who are still in Coosa HDs that might be looking to upgrade to the Coosa X, or maybe looking to upgrade to this. And so I might do a side-by-side comparison, just kind of show what those look like. So if you're interested in that, definitely let me know. If you have any questions about this, or if you'd like a little more thorough rundown of all the features, just let me know and I can do that. But I wanted to get out here and just kind of walk through how I set this up and let you see my configuration on the Crescent Shoalie. Thank you. So I wanted to cut back in. I was putting everything up after I finished recording, and I wanted to talk about one thing that people bring up with Crescents in general, and that's the stability and the performance. So the Crescent line, and any Crescent I've been in, which has been the ultralight, the CK1, the light tackle, and the Shoalie, any of those have a lot of secondary stability and are a little looser in the primary stability, which gives you a lot more control when paddling. Some people interpret that as being a little bit tippy. One thing that you get with a Shoalie is a little more primary stability than what you would get in something like the light tackle or the CK1 or the ultralight. On the Shoalie, they actually, I don't want to say flatten the hull, but it's not, the keel isn't as pronounced in a triangle, for lack of better words, like you see on the other models. But that being said, all the Crescent line are incredibly stable. Understanding primary stability, understanding secondary stability, and understanding how to use that to your advantage and how that plays into your paddling and the performance overall of the kayak are extremely important. Having that secondary stability really helps you edge around things or helps you paddle, make quicker maneuvers, and that's something that I've really come to enjoy in the Crescent line, which is why I think of the kayaks I've been in, they're the most efficient paddling kayaks and best paddling kayaks in the fishing market for sure. So if you have any other questions, just let me know. Thank you guys for watching.